Hi again, everyone. Again, my name is Diane, and I'd like to welcome you to the unofficial Carey's Improv-A-Ganza channel. I do ask that you please watch the video I made prior to this one, if you have not already, in which I described a few different things, including why my voice might sound funny, who I am, how I'm going to review, and why I'm going to review the way I'm going to review, and also the set design. There are a few other little things I talked about as well. So if you haven't watched that video yet, please go ahead and listen to that now, and then you can come back to this one. And now I'm going to start and actually kick things off and have a bit of fun and talk about the very first show that I attended. The very first show was filmed on January 13th, which was a Thursday, of 2011. The show consisted of 6 players. Kathy Kinney, mainly known as Mimi from The Drew Carey Show. Chip Eston, who of course was from Whose Line. He also has been in recent things like Big Love. And of course, Brad Sherwood, Colin Mockery, Drew Carey. You guys all know them. You all know who they are. I needn't say more. It's freaking Drew Carey, and Colin Mockery, and Brad Sherwood, and Chip Eston, and Kathy Kinney. And that was the lineup for the first show. So there were 6 people. And for those of you freaking out when I say this, they're thinking, oh, what happened to Ryan and Jonathan Magnum and, et cetera, and Greg Proops? They will be there. They were in some other shows. But the cast is a rotating cast for the most part. So it will be a little bit more like the UK version of Whose Line, with the cast changing around frequently. So don't panic, don't think that people in the cast have suddenly left. They're still going to be there. Weren't at the first few shows. So, anyway, those were the 6 people who were there for that one. Now I'm going to tell you the games that were played, and anything that might stand out in my mind. I do remember the very first show being one of my favorite shows of the 7 that I saw. I remember laughing absolutely hysterically at it. Part of that might have been just the fact that I was just so excited and happy to be there, and I was right up front, right with all the action, and it was tremendous. So I think that when that episode airs, however it will be aired, it will be a really good one, or so I'm hoping. Anyway, the first game was Freeze Tag. Freeze Tag was a game that was played on a green screen show. Drew Carey's green screen show, that is. If you don't know what Freeze Tag is, I'm certain that you can look it up on YouTube and watch some of the other, YouTube clips of the guys playing Freeze Tag. Sometimes it's also just known as simply Freeze. Anyway, it includes all of them. I always love Freeze Tag, because sometimes they end up in very suggestive and provocative positions and situations, which of course leads to much hilarity. The second game that was played is called New Choice. This one had Kathy, Drew, and Brad, and they were Kathy and Drew were a part of a construction site, and Brad was the one yelling New Choice. Basically, how New Choice works is that the two are Kathy and Drew would talk through the scene with their characters, and then Brad could stop them at any point and yell new choice, and whatever they just said, they would have to re-say it in a different way and completely come up with something completely different. And Brad might keep saying new choice until he was satisfied, and that's how the game would be played. See, the next thing that was played was Song for an Audience Member. This was a game that was played on Whose Line. It was usually Wayne who did this game, typically. This one had Jeff and Brad singing. They pulled up and they always pull up a female, by the way. It's always a female audience member that they've been pulling up. And this one, they did an R&B ballad, which, if I remember right, was very, very funny. But I also have not to the best of memories, and I didn't take that many notes because I was too busy trying to enjoy the show. And again, I'm not trying to give a whole lot of opinion anyway, because I want you just to experience it when you see it. The next game that was played was called Options. This game is also called Film and Theater Styles, or simply Styles. It has a bunch of different names, this game. I can't remember if it was played on Whose Line. It probably was. If not, it probably was on green screen. If you've ever been to the Who's Live Anyway shows, they play this game all the time. This game was played by Colin and Chip, and Jeff did the calling for it. Basically, in Options, again, the two performers are setting up the scene and doing whatever, and then the caller will occasionally freeze the scene and get a suggestion from the audience, and then they have to continue the scene in that style. And now that I remember, yes, this was played on Whose Line. They just got all the suggestions beforehand, and Drew would write them down and then randomly throw them in. But the way that Options works is that they get the suggestions as they go along from the audience. And it can be, names of a book or song, movie styles, theater styles, etc. And that particular scene was something to do with embroidery. Yes. The fifth game that was played was called Question This, formerly known as Jeopardy! Jeopardy! It can't be called Jeopardy! Because for legal terms, it would jeopardize the show. Ha 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 ha. Which included everyone but Colin. The sixth game that was played was Sentences, also known as Whose Line, from Whose Line Is Anyway. It was played by Jeff and Colin. And it was a soap opera called Seriously, I Don't Know. Sentences is again where audience members write down a random sentence and then they pull out the sentence and have to say it and interject it into the scene and go along with it. It's one of my favorite games. I love Sentences. And they originally weren't going to play Sentences. And then at the last minute they decided they were. So I'm happy about that. Then they played a game called Forward Reverse, which is one of my favorite games because it never really quite works because it's so hard to play. It's the game that everyone is a little bit afraid of because it is just tremendously difficult. This game had Brad and Chip. They were both physical therapists. Forward Reverse is that there's also a caller, I don't remember who the caller was, who stops the scene and can have them go backwards or go forward. So whatever they just said, if it's suddenly reversed, they have to say it again, and then what was said after that had to be said again. I mean, before that. It's very complicated. Basically, a scene, and they either have to go backwards or forwards in the scene exactly like how it was. Then there was Moving People with Kathy and Colin for All You Can Eat Day. And then there was a Two-Headed Expert with Brad and Colin and Jeff and Drew. And I'm going to pause this because, again, I've reached almost my 10-minute limit. I really am hating these 10-minute limits because I could talk much longer. So I guess my second video, I'm going to continue with this first review, and then I'm going to try and get in the second review as well, because once I've explained the games, me just going through them is going to take a lot less time. So please tune into the following video after this. Thank you.